Welcome to the Narrowing Path, Walking the Spiritual Walk. My name is Steve Ben Einstein. Thank you all for joining me again tonight as we go through and we do today's reading from James Allen's Daily Meditation. And this is being recorded in 2023, and October 13th is actually a Friday the 13th. So anyone listening in later years know that this was recorded on a Friday the 13th, which in probably most other cultures doesn't mean too much, but it's just predominantly spooky day by association in the United States. So it's always cool uh, to include those little occurrences with this when something's happening. So I'm looking forward to today's, though, just to see what we have to talk about. It's been a great couple of days. October's been packed with just so much stuff that I really have benefited from. So I'm looking forward to seeing what today's brings. This, of course, will be fresh to you and fresh to me, meaning that this will be the first time that I hear it or read it right here on this podcast with y'all. So you'll get my genuine response, reactions, observations, and what I relate to about the reading. So here we go. This is going to be October 13th reading from James Allen's Daily Meditations. By practice, association, and habit, thoughts tend to repeat themselves. By daily dwelling upon pure thoughts, the man of meditation forms a habit of pure and enlightened thinking, which leads to pure and enlightened actions and well performed duties. By the ceaseless repetition of pure thoughts, he at last becomes one with those thoughts, and he is a purified being, manifesting his attainment in pure actions, a serene and wise life. The majority of men live in a series of conflicting desires, passions, emotions, and speculations. And there are restlessness, uncertainty, and sorrow. But when a man begins to train his mind in meditation, he gradually gains control over this inward conflict by bringing his thoughts to a focus upon a central principle. It is easy to mistake reverie for meditation. I enjoy that. That's I liked this one. I've got to look up this last word though. Reverie, just to make sure I know what we're talking about here. A state of being pleasantly lost in one's thoughts. A daydream. Okay, good. All right, that makes sense to me then. And archaic meaning is a fanciful or impractical idea or theory. So it's daydreaming, which so many people do, right? And he's stressing the importance of the difference between meditation and daydreaming. Meditation in context we talk about it here, which is, again, as we've been going through and discussing in the last couple of days, is the combination of aspiration and concentration. So it's not just a mindless wandering of your thoughts, it's the purposeful and intentional contemplation of spiritual truths and spiritual principles that we're aspiring to bring into our lives. So that last line, really, it's a distinction to be made at the end of the day. So, all right, let's go through this from the top here. By practice, association, and habit, thoughts tend to repeat themselves. Hold on, let me read that again. By practice, association, and habit, thoughts tend to repeat themselves. So, what we practice, what we associate with, and habits, thoughts tend to repeat themselves. Like we're still embracing thoughts. We're choosing thoughts. We're actively participating in them, expanding on them, entertaining them over and over again. So that's kind of what we're talking about here. We're allowing them in. We're allowing them to be a part of our active daily perception. And that's not what we need to be doing with these things. That's a problem. If it's something negative, I guess. I mean, because that's how the good and the purifying thoughts come in too, through our practice and our associations and our habits. So the good, every thought we have and that we entertain is on us. Is on me, mine or on me. So what am I going to choose to bring into my mind? What am I going to choose to focus on? What am I going to choose to expand upon? Right? I guess that's what we're talking about here. Because when he goes into the main reading here, by daily dwelling upon pure thoughts, the man of meditation forms the habit of pure and enlightened thinking, which leads to pure and enlightened actions and well performed duties. I think it was yesterday, we talked a little bit about how meditation sets the tone for the entire day because whatever, when we meditate, when we take that time to bring spirituality and spiritual principles into our lives, right? Suddenly they're being implemented and influenced and impacting our entire day. And that's just how it goes. So, by dwelling upon pure thoughts, the man of meditation, so meditation is the concentration on the spiritual truths we are aspiring to embody, right? So, those are the pure thoughts. That's what we're talking about. The man of meditation forms a habit of pure and enlightened thinking, which leads to pure and enlightened actions and well performed duties. So, when that's goes along with that understanding that if we do this in the morning, especially, and we have this practice of meditation, our days will grow and in spiritual ways. And we're grounded in that spirituality, in that right perspective, right out the gate. It's an important difference and establishes a very big shift in what we perceive throughout the day and how we act and interact with the world. By the ceaseless repetition of pure thoughts, he at last becomes one with those thoughts. So we're constantly bringing these things up. What we what we think about, we expand upon, right? And those thoughts will eventually manifest themselves through our actions, which become our habits, which becomes our character, which becomes our destiny, right? That's the progression of these things. So ceaseless repetition of pure thoughts, that's the purification process of our minds. That's the purification process and the removal of those things that we do to serve ourselves. He's the ceaseless repetition of pure thoughts that he at last becomes one with those thoughts. So instead of the self-serving thoughts, we're so used to having the selfless thoughts, the other-centered thoughts will become the norm. And is a purified being, manifesting his attainment in pure actions in a serene and wise life. So these are the things that'll come up. We will be blessed with a serene and wise life. Like we can't make that our purpose for doing this. It can be a good motivator in the beginning, but eventually what ends up happening through these purifying thoughts, through practicing this way of life, you'll find yourself just doing the right things for the right reasons. And then as a consequence, an unintentional consequence, your life will be more peaceful. You'll have more serenity, more understanding, and more compassion by just doing the right thing for the right reasons with no thought of its effect on yourself. You don't do it for the payoff anymore. We don't do things anymore for what we get out of them. We take the right actions only because it's the right thing to do. The majority of men live in a series of conflicting desires, passions, emotions, and speculations, and there are restlessness, uncertainty, and sorrow. So most men are just self-seeking. Most men are just self-serving. They desire to maybe live a right and just life, but my own desires were getting in the way, my own passions, my own emotions, speculations, worries, really is what that means. I become restless, uncertain, and sorrowful. And I do it to myself. That's that's the thing that's always amazed me. I never realized how much I was doing it to myself. Outside of the obvious, I was doing drugs and drinking too much. I knew that much. But I really thought the world was just unfair to a guy like me. It just kind of blew my mind when I was blessed with and graced with, some might say, the perspective and the understanding of taking responsibility for my actions and seeing my part and having that accountability. It was a hard awakening, but it was necessary because I was constantly restless, uncertain, sorrowful, because I was filled with those conflicting desires, passions, emotions, speculations. The things I wanted to do, the things I thought I had to do, things I thought I had to worry about, things I thought I was owed, the emotions I like to entertain. It caused all of these things, the restlessness, uncertainty, and sorrow. I didn't, I couldn't connect A to B. But when a man begins to train his mind in meditation, so the contemplation of pure thought, he gradually gains control over his inward conflict by bringing his thoughts to a focus upon a central principle. So eventually, upon doing this practice of meditation, upon taking these actions to grow and purify our own actions and then minds and then souls through this practice and repetition of and contemplation, which is meditation of spiritual virtues and spiritual principles, we gain control over the inward conflict. It's a pretty straightforward subject, or a pretty straightforward way to handle it. It just kind of gets lost in the message sometimes, I guess. Now, the last line again, I'll just read it over, even though we've talked about it. It is easy to mistake reverie for meditation. The mindless daydreaming, the wandering mind, it's not meditation. Meditation's intentional. Meditation, the subject of meditation is truth, righteous truth, selfless love, things like that. And upon that contemplation, upon the concentration of our faculties on that, it manifests through our lives, our behaviors, and our actions. So don't mistake daydreaming for meditation. It's much more than that. So, all right. Well, there we go. That's it. That wraps it up for today. Great reading. Just, I love the expansion we're doing with what meditation is, how it's practiced, what we get from it, things like that. I find it's fantastic, and I'm really grateful that this is where we are right now. Sometimes I need those reminders and those realignments. So that's the blessing I get from doing this. I hope everyone else enjoys it as well. And I am looking forward to seeing what tomorrow brings. So until next time, thanks.